Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday, October 6th, and this will be the Week 8 announcement for Political Science 3753 Constitutional Law for the fall 2024 term. Okay, everyone, we're through the midterm exam. Scores on the exam were high on the whole. I was very pleased. Majority of students made A's. We now move into the second part of the course. We're moving from the structure of government, checks and balances, executive, legislative branch powers, to civil rights and civil liberties. And we start off this week with right to privacy issues, above all abortion, although there are other issues that are touched by the right to privacy. Now, in the class notes, I look at Roe versus Wade and the decisions that came along in the wake of it for decades, including Planned Parenthood versus Casey. That's in lecture 13. And then in the class notes for 14, it's 13 and 14 we're looking at this week. We start off with the Dobbs decision from just a couple of years ago, which overturned Roe versus Wade. So quite a bit to chew on there. Everybody, we're going to take a quiz Thursday, and I've sent you a link to an article that appeared just after the Dobbs decision came down. This is an extensive article. It's a lengthy article, so this will be our only assignment for the quiz. The author of the article feels that abortion rights should be based on something other than substantive due process. Now, you'll see the phrase substantive due process in my class notes and in this article, and be sure you understand what is meant by that, because it goes back before the abortion issue. Okay, before 1937, when the Supreme Court struck down so many New Deal type economic regulation programs, okay, it was done on the basis of the doctrine of substantive due process. And what scholars will tell you is that substantive due process went away, and then it came back under another guise, under the Earl Warren and Warren Burger Supreme Courts, in the guise of, shall we say, right to privacy rather than economic liberty, if you will. Okay, because there were a number of cases under Earl Warren were perceived as quite radical, and you might say paved the way for what happened under Earl Warren's successor, Warren Burger, in 1973 with the Roe versus Wade decision. Be sure you understand what is meant by substantive due process. We distinguish substantive due process and procedural due process. It makes sense. It sounds redundant to speak of procedural due process. If it's about process, it's procedural, but we have a doctrine out there called substantive due process. And you might say that the right to privacy is a version of substantive due process. So be sure you understand what's meant by that. Now, everybody, in the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court was careful to say that the decision was pertinent to abortion only, and not other right to privacy cases that the court has decided. Now, Justice Clarence Thomas, in a concurrence, did not agree. He said he would prefer to review all substantive due process cases. No one else joined his opinion. He agreed with the majority to overturn Roe versus Wade, but he said he would reconsider. Griswold versus Connecticut, the contraception case. Obergefell, the same-sex marriage case. Lawrence versus Texas, in which so-called sodomy laws were declared unconstitutional. Clarence Thomas finds all those to be dubious. Okay, and he would prefer that they all be reviewed. Okay, nobody else joined that concurring opinion of his, but you might say the idea is out there floating around. So privacy, the idea of a right to privacy, has implications for all kinds of issues. Okay, LGBT rights, LGBT, okay, including anti-homosexuality laws as were considered in Lawrence versus Texas, same-sex marriage, okay, contraception, okay, assisted suicide or the right to die. Now, in your class notes for lecture 14, be careful. Take a look at what I had to say about MAID in Canada, medical assistance in dying in Canada. That's something Canada has allowed due to a decision of the Supreme Court of Canada about a decade ago. And what's happened in the aftermath of that is worth looking at. So I have a couple of paragraphs in the class notes about that. Be sure to look closely at that. Okay, we have in this week in the class notes for lectures 13 and 14, abortion and other right to privacy issues. Okay, then we'll take a quiz on that lengthy article I sent you by Mr. Milheiser from Vox.com. That will be the only assignment for the quiz on Thursday the 10th. Okay, 10 true-false items based on that article alone. Then early next week, we'll have our fourth discussion on abortion. That's not coming up for over a week, so I'll say something about that in next week's message, so be watching for that. Once again, abortion and right to privacy this week, class notes for lectures 13 and 14, quiz on Thursday the 10th. Then the following week, there will be a discussion, and we'll say more about the discussion next time. So take a look at those class notes and the article for the quiz on Thursday, and we'll talk to you a week from now at this time.